Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's working now. So I'm Jeremy Pellet. I'm the CEO of Expertise France, the French agency for international technical coordination, part of the AFD group. I'm really pleased to have you all here on this panel organized together with AFD and Catherine Simonet. We'll have the pleasure of moderating it. I'm really happy to have with us today Amy Duchel, who's the team leader for forests and climate at the FAO. We have Patricia Zorita, the executive vice president for Conservation International. My friend Ruel Yamuna, the special envoy of PNG for this COP, and Catherine. We'll have the pleasure to have Mrs. Arlette Sudan Nono. I think in a few minutes, she's the Minister for Environment, Sustainable Development, and the Congo Basin for the Republic of Congo. Since the beginning of this COP, we've been talking a lot about forests. We've been talking a lot about financial mobilization. So we wanted today with this panel make the link between this objective of financial mobilization and the capacity building necessity to make our objective effective, in particular for forests. In the recent compromise of Seville during the last fourth International Conference for Financing of Development, we underline that project is not just a matter of funding, but it's also a matter of implementation. We need to have confidence for investors if we want to attract public or private money. We need to have the capacity to monitor the long-term conservation of resources. We need to structure markets and a sustainable exploitation of forests. So for that, we need co-construction, we need peer-to-peer expertise, we need regional cooperation. And for forest, that has been underlined already in different occasions. I'm thinking about the One Forest Summit in Libreville, the recent summit of the three basins that were organized, well, 2 years ago now by the Republic of Congo. And as an actor, on behalf of Expertise France, as an actor being present in the Amazon forest as well as in the Congo Basin and in PNG. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to share experience on this and to showcase what our countries have been able to develop in order to preserve tropical forests, share common knowledge, and encourage some innovative cooperation. So I think this really fits well with the agenda of implementation of this COP. So to illustrate this, I'm really happy to leave the floor now to Catherine and to our distinguished panelists to explore these different views. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome in the IDFC pavilion. So I'm really happy to moderate this panel. As introduced by Jeremy, the objective today is to think about implementation. We do not have a lot of tools acting as catalyst tools for climate finance. And now the question is about how we operationalize, how we work on technical cooperation in order to make this finance working in the ground. And to have a very concrete example, I will ask to you, Mr. Ruel Yamuna, who are Special Envoy for Climate and Environment for Papua New Guinea. What do you see to better mobilize your expertise as a forest countries in this kind of massive project and funds such as the country package and the TFF initiatives?
Merci. Thank you, moderator, and good evening, good afternoon, colleagues. Firstly, I'd like to thank IDFC for this opportunity. It's a privilege to be here with these distinguished panelists. Yeah, it's a very big opportunity we have back at home in Papua New Guinea, building on from the historic visit that President Macron did last year and the year before last year in Libreville with the One Forest Summit, and then later in Paris with the Global Finance Pact. You know, it's not easy mobilizing resources, financial resources at the global level, trying to change the global financing architecture to put forests and nature-based solutions front and center of the discussions. But I'm happy to share with some of the discussions and some of the implementation experiences. Oh, I think we have minutes.
Merci. No problem. I can open. Okay. I'm sorry for I'm later. Sorry. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour à tous. Je suis la ministre de l'Environnement, du Développement durable et du bassin du Congo, de la République du Congo, mais également la secrétaire exécutive de la Commission climat du bassin du Congo, qui porte les 17 pays, en fin de compte, de la région sur le plan au-delà du découpage politique. Monsieur le directeur général d'Expertise France, mesdames et messieurs, distingués invités, avant de livrer mon propos de circonstance, je tiens à remercier Expertise France de m'avoir associé à ce side event auquel je me joins volontiers au regard de l'importance du sujet abordé, celui de la coopération technique et de son rôle déterminant dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de l'agenda climatique national. Mesdames et messieurs, le financement seul n'est ni l'aboutissement, ni le seul résultat attendu de nos négociations pour l'action en faveur des forêts et de façon plus globale des écosystèmes. En effet, l'action repose essentiellement sur ce qui va permettre la réalisation des activités et programmes. Et pour ce faire, la coopération technique constitue un véritable levier de mobilisation, de financement, de transfert de technologie et de renforcement de compétences techniques et opérationnelles. Elle permet en outre la valorisation des pratiques locales au service du climat et de l'environnement. Il faut cependant rappeler que la coopération technique doit fondamentalement s'appuyer sur une identification et une expression des besoins du bénéficiaire. Elle ne doit pas être formulée de manière unilatérale et imposer son fonctionnement et ses procédures aux bénéficiaires. Elle doit être fondée sur un esprit de co-construction. Sa boussole principale devra donc viser la montée en puissance des capacités opérationnelles du bénéficiaire et la prise en main totale des activités une fois l'appui achevé. Mesdames et messieurs, je souhaiterais ici souligner qu'une coopération réussie et bénéfique est une coopération plurielle et multidimensionnelle. Elle peut être publique, privée, bilatérale, multilatérale ou même interrégionale. C'est d'ailleurs dans cet esprit que j'ai eu l'honneur d'organiser à Brazzaville en octobre 2023 le sommet des 3 bassins, lesquels a permis donc les 3 bassins que vous connaissez tous, l'Amazonie, le Bornéo-Mékong, l'Asie du Sud-Est et le bassin du Congo, lequel a permis, donc sommet des 3 bassins, à l'adoption d'une feuille de route inédite, car elle ouvre une voie de coopération sud-sud interrégionale engageant 3 continents en matière de protection de l'environnement et de nos forêts, mais de façon globale également de nos écosystèmes. Cette initiative n'est pas une remise en question des coopérations déjà existantes, mais elle permettra plutôt un élargissement du cercle de la diversification des partenaires et des visions sur nos forêts et nos écosystèmes. Car nous souhaitons désormais être acteurs de notre action et prendre en main les décisions en conscience et en concertation plutôt que de les subir. Et pour cela, nous souhaitons mieux nous connaître entre bassins forestiers pour mutualiser nos connaissances, nos acquis et mettre à profit notre savoir-faire respectif. Chers partenaires techniques, aussi je profite de cette occasion pour lancer un appel aux agences de coopération technique internationale afin de faciliter l'activation de cette feuille de route signée en octobre 2023 et user de leurs leviers spécifiques, le tout dans un esprit de solidarité et de complémentarité. L'esprit de cette feuille de route n'est ni l'exclusion ni l'exclusivité. J'insiste, ni l'exclusion ni l'exclusivité. Mesdames et messieurs, par coopération technique renforcée pour les forêts, nous entendons une coopération assurant un partage de connaissances, de compétences, de technologies et des bonnes pratiques. Une coopération fondée sur un esprit de partage d'expériences et de respect des priorités des pays forestiers. Une coopération dynamique, interactive et non exclusive. Sur ce, il ne me reste plus qu'à vous remercier et à m'excuser encore du retard avec lequel je prononce donc ce discours d'ouverture. Merci encore à tous. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mrs. the Minister. Madame la Ministre, merci beaucoup. Ah, attendez. J'ai piqué. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre. Thank you very much for this introductory word. I think that your point are really well echoing what Mr. Yamuna was just starting to say in terms of the role of the forest countries, their expertise, the way they want to share their knowledge across the different basins and with the implementation partners.
Merci. And thank you, Madam Minister and colleagues. Yes, as I was saying, and as the good minister mentioned, it's cooperation is very important. And for us in Papua New Guinea, as I was mentioning earlier, we appreciate the political leadership at the global level by our good leaders in France, in particular, President Macron with his inaugural visit last year to Papua New Guinea and the One Forest Summit in Gabon, in Libreville, the One Forest Summit, and then the Global Finance Pact in Paris with the global financing architecture that needs to be reshaped to accommodate forest financing for forests and nature-based solutions. So that was something I wanted to share just in terms of appreciation. As the moderator mentioned, in terms of our challenges and our opportunities for us, for Papua New Guinea, in terms of information, in terms of technical assistance and knowledge management. from the outset, I just want to say that we have good information. We've got good um, local knowledge, local expertise. It's just the strengthening and the upskilling of this local expertise. And that's something that I'm pleased to say that with the support of international development partners with Expertise France, with the European Union and bilateral partners like France and among other partners, we've been scaling up. So I guess the key point firstly is traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, integration of that indigenous knowledge to help integrate within the climate financing landscape. That's for us is very important. Um, Last year, we were privileged to have through the sorry, this year in June, first week of July, the 42nd Green Climate Fund board meeting in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, where the board approved for the first time Papua New Guinea's first single funding proposal. That was a shift in the recognition for rainforests, and for us was a indication of the recognition of the support and the sector in terms of the reductions that was achieved from 2014 to 16, the 9 million tons. And as I mentioned earlier, the local expertise is there, the local knowledge is there. For us putting together the information, the data, and the knowledge to have that funding come through the Green Climate Fund, 63.4 million, a lot of money for the recognition of those reductions. And for me as being privileged to be part of the board last year, it brought into full circle, the ability of local expertise in partnership with our development partners to have these full funding proposals developed. And I think that is a key component of the work that we do with our partners, and something that our good Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape, always advocates in terms of the long-term financing that is needed. So that's the first point. I think the second point, and very important, is the scientific knowledge that we need to harness. And that's something that, with through the country package, as we saw in Libreville, there's a lot of good work happening within the region. And, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in Kinshasa, some of the good work that's been happening in the other forest basin countries, we're keen to learn from. And, I'm pleased to say that a lot of our good regional entities like, SPRAP and SPC, they've been working with, countries like like PNG in the Pacific, and of course our bigger entities like Conservation International, WCS, among others, that help strengthen the scientific knowledge, because that's something that is very important. The nexus between the indigenous knowledge and the science that corresponds with the change in the environment, and that's something that I'm proud to say that we with the ongoing support of the Expertise France team, we're working with local research institutions like the Binatang Research Organization in Medellin, collaborating with 40 funded postgraduate studies, very important given the capacity constraints, and working on having all that local knowledge digitized, so that there's a central knowledge sharing platform that can help uh, with the sustainability of that knowledge, and more importantly, the conversion of that knowledge to the mobilization of resources. Because in the Green Climate Fund, for example, the first question that they ask is the climate rationale. What is the climate rationale? We know that your community is affected by climate, but how can you demonstrate that that impact is affecting the community? And so, the harmonization of traditional knowledge, science, in partnership with our different entities, make sure that there's a long-term financing plan I think that's something that we're pleased to showcase in terms of our ongoing collaboration. But moderator, I think that is just a small icebreaker for now. I think the good minister is about to leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yamuna. I've well noted the importance you foresee of the country platform, the role they can play on the scientific knowledge sharing and local knowledge sharing. I think it's a very nice transition to my question to Patricia Zunita. You are Executive Vice President for Chief of Partnership Officer to Conservation International. So Conservation International is managing the seed fund secretariat that support the development of this country package. And my question for you is, what role do you see for this platform to achieve this global goal that we are speaking now for the forest and the tropical forest? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and thanks so much for having us in this panel. I mean, you heard it from the minister, right? And from Ruel as well. Unless these efforts capture the knowledge and the collaboration of the local countries, this is not going to be effective, and there will be another wash of cooperation that is not actually well implemented. So the seed fund, for those of you who don't know, Conservation International is, as Catherine said, the secretariat of the seed fund. The seed fund was created to mobilize funding to enable the countries to get ready to implement the country packages. The country packages aim to bring in this technical and financial support for the implementation of the NDCs and the MBSAPs and make sure that we are accelerating the sustainability agenda of the countries. So at COP28, the government of France, Conservation International, with the support of the Rob Walton Foundation, the Betty and Gordon Moore Foundation, I cannot say that anymore, sorry, announced the intention to raise 115 million euros to enable countries like Papua New Guinea, like DRC, like the Republic of Congo, to really be ready to be able to implement the country packages. And since then, we have been accelerating this funding to work hand in hand with governments like the government of Peru in the design of the country package. We're working with Ruel's team, looking into really accelerating and making it more practical, the implementation of the country packages. Now, it's not something that we want to do is just throwing money to the system, but rather something that we are actually working on hand in hand with a very active participation of not only the local governments, but the local civil society as well. And figuring out what are those best mechanisms to ensure that we can accelerate these processes. So for example, at the New York Climate Week, we had the government of Peru presenting for the first time the first draft of the country package. And that included a whole agenda for indigenous territories in the Amazon, a whole agenda for financing protected areas, a whole agenda for managing the existing protected areas, and looking into the development of bioeconomy for those local communities. So it's this confluence of these different enablers that will bring and make the country packages a lot more catalytic. So we are proud to be enabling the seed fund, and we're ready to continue to work with governments like yours in Papua New Guinea, but many others that are members of the FCLP, and really enable and accelerate the action, because that's exactly what we need. But accelerate the action in the way that the minister mentioned before, with collaboration, with cooperation, not with exclusivity. Unfortunately, I'm not as important as the minister is, but I do have to dash off to another event outside the venue. But my dear colleague and friend, Herbert Last, who leads our program in Europe and who was actually the father of the Seed Fund, is going to stay here for us. So thank you so much for having me, and apologies for having to dash off early.
We completely understand, and thanks a lot for sharing all your experience with this Seed Fund Secretariat. That really enthusiastic perspective for the acceleration of the country package. Now, I will ask you a question, Mrs. Duchel. So you are expert team leader for forest and climate at the FAO. FAO is really engaged on the forest questions, and more broadly, I wanted to ask you what role of the UN in the implementation of projects related to natures and communities do you see? What role for the UN?
Thank you. Thank you so much, and it's really a pleasure to be in this event among such distinguished panelists, and thank you, especially my regards to the special envoy from Papua New Guinea, for which we've had a long-term collaboration between FAO and PNG. The main way that FAO has engaged with the forest and climate issues to date is really through the UN RED program. And that program, as probably most of you know, is a joint partnership between FAO, the UN Development Program, and the UN Environment Program. And it had its 15-year anniversary at the last COP in Baku. And it's been a way that, you know, this long-term programmatic approach where UN agencies that maybe could be at odds or could be doing work in parallel actually came together to have a much more coordinated approach to support for forest and climate issues in countries based on the respective mandates of the organizations and expertise and specialization. And probably FAO's main role in a lot of this has been in the national forest monitoring system space, as well as, of course, supporting with results-based payments, and more recently promoting forest agriculture linkages, because of course FAO comes, you know, we have a forestry division in FAO, which I'm part of, but you know, the broader FAO is focused on agriculture, and so we have a huge opportunity to bridge forestry and agriculture in one organization and transfer that into our support for countries where often ministries of environment, forestry, and agriculture themselves are not necessarily coming together. So that's how we've really you know, focused our approach. And I think the most recent success, I would say, with the partnerships with the countries is with the example that the special envoy outlined of the Green Climate Fund results-based program for RED Plus, and building on the leadership of Papua New Guinea for 20 years or more in the forest and climate space, and absolutely just working hand in hand to support, especially based on the National Forest Monitoring System. So we are really happy that this project is going through, and it's the first small island developing state project, so it's getting a huge amount of attention internationally, and it's well deserved, sir. So maybe just to wrap up, what's happening now, and this is the long-term importance of staying with countries, you know, over the long term. The UN RED is releasing its new strategy for 2026-2030 next week, and very much building on all of the successes that have been achieved with 66 partner countries to date. I mean, it's really quite a program, and it's, you know, providing this roadmap of solutions to 2030, very much aligned, of course, with the Paris Agreement and the outcome of the first global stocktake to enhance efforts towards halting and reversing deforestation and forest degradation by 2030. Maybe one last point. Many of us have seen this increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires globally, and something that went kind of unnoticed last week at the Leaders Summit. In addition to the Tropical Forest Forever facility, President Lula also announced the call to action on integrated fire management and wildfire resilience, and that has now 60 countries endorsing this call to action, and part of that delivery will be done through the Global Fire Management Hub, which is a big partnership platform. The Secretariat is hosted at FAO, and we're very much understanding that if we don't promote a more integrated approach to fire management, none of our forest goals are really, and land goals are in reach, because we see the devastation that many of these wildfires have caused. They're climate change induced. They're not going to get better. It's only going to get worse unless we take a more proactive and preventative approach to wildfires. Thanks.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Thank you very much. And we are really looking forward about the new strategy, the red new strategy. And your point on the fire management, I think, is really important. Expertise France is quite well involved on social civil protection, so I guess you are already well involved on this aspect. And thanks for underlying this. Jeremy, a question to the CEO of Expertise France now. We've seen a lot of initiatives, technical cooperations initiatives in order to accelerate this engagement. What role do you see for technical cooperations agencies such as Expertise France, ensuring the credibility of climate and environmental commitment that we've heard these last weeks?
Thank you. I think if you, I was mentioning earlier the compromise of CV. If you read it's a document on the financing of development. But if you read the document, you have 35 or 40 references to technical cooperation or capacity building. So it really shows the importance of being concrete, being involved in the ground. At the same time, I think we are in a time of renewing this notion of technical assistance. I clearly prefer cooperation to assistance, because we do we do what I should call north cooperation, and we do technical cooperation within the European Union. And actually, the fight against wildfires is a good example. The solidarity system for wildfire within the EU is a very efficient one, but it has been built in over the past 30 years. And the EU itself is a good example of structuring a strong cooperation between countries. So we do north-north cooperation. There are south-south cooperation that, of course, we promote specifically on the issues of rainforest. And in general, we need to accelerate on global exchanges I mean, we face global challenges, climate change, being by definition a global challenge. So I don't think any one of us has the only solution. We need to think about global solutions. That's my first point. My second point is that we need to think from the beginning of how to incorporate the mobilization of resources within our action. When I say that, I'm saying this in an environment where the flow of official development aid is reducing all over the world. So when we are talking about mobilization, either from public finance, MDBs, public development banks, or private finance, or local, domestic mobilization resources, we absolutely need to have that in mind in our technical cooperation action. And that's absolutely fundamental. Of course, we need to have strong institutions, as I said in an introduction, but we also have to have in mind the creation of this capacity of mobilizing resources. That's at the heart of the DNA of the AFD group, as we are having an institution in charge of financing countries, an institution for financing the private sector, and a technical cooperation agency within the same group. But more than that, I think it's really at the heart of the new notion of sustainable development, and that's absolutely key. And that's the reason why it's so important to echoing what was said before on the country packages. That's why it's so important that we clearly have a good methodology from the beginning at when we are building the country packages and the country platforms, to make sure that we have the proper actors around the table, and that we have them aligned on the objectives of the country, of course. We need to have clear priorities from the country and capacity of the actors around the table to support this objective. So that's I mean that for me it's clearly the challenge today that we need to face, especially on the issues of protecting forests, given the fact that we have so many stakeholders in the environment of forest.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the very interesting examples and insight. I think I have to conclude soon, but if you have last examples or words you would like to highlight before conclusions, or I'm opening the floor to the audience. No? No burning questions? Okay.
Maybe I'll just get this off my chest before I forget. Just yesterday, PNG became a member of the Forest Climate Leaders Partnership Network. That's just an example of the political and technical commitment to be part of the network of countries that can mobilize resources and move with this COP being a forest COP, move one step closer to having dedicated resources being given at scale to support some of the good work that we're doing. But having said that, I also want to acknowledge the ongoing support at the multilateral level with established funding mechanisms like the Green Climate Fund, Global Environment Facility, Climate Investment Fund, Adaptation Fund, among other funding mechanisms. It's not easy with the replenishment challenges that they have, but with dedicated support from some of the large developed economies, it's always good to know that that those replenishment support is given to continue the work that's happening in small island countries like PNG and others. So just two little points I wanted to mention as a closing remark, and commend the work that the team's doing. Thank you.
Maybe a comment on myself. We've been insisting on the role of local communities and indigenous people. But I think there are lessons to be learned from the different regions on the way these communities are organized. I think here in the Amazon basin we have good examples. We have the association, the Amazon Treaty Cooperation Organization. We have COICA representing coordinating the indigenous people. Those are important partners in order to channel also fund directly to local communities and indigenous people. You know that today statistics show that only 1% generally of total global financial support finally goes to the level of the community. So we also need to increase that. Does that mean that we need to have some capacity building at that level, and maybe some work with the countries to make sure that we have a proper way of local governance, association of indigenous people, which is not obvious. I fully recognize it, but that's something that also could be interesting, in particular in Central Africa, where we have different regimes in the different countries.
Thank you very much. We aim to have a small presentation from Conservancy International of our future forest program. I don't know if you can say a few words on it.
I was not briefed on that. Can I make another point? Because I actually want to, yeah. So I briefly wanted to sort of like pick up. I actually sort of, if I would give an example of something that works very well, is actually the cooperation in PNG and together with sort of Expertise France, because I think it's exactly to the point that you made, sort of that deliberate planning, working with local partners, using local knowledge is really, really key. What we're really sort of worried in other countries, and this is to your point, is that because of the pressure on ODA, because sort of this pressure to use blended finance, to look at loans, is that sometimes, and this is definitely not the case here in PNG, we're forgetting about the point that technical cooperation is important, needs to be done, needs to be planned, and cannot just be replaced by other means of finance. So I am working for an NGO. I am going to make a desperate plea that ODA is still very important, that grants is still very important, because it is the only way that we will actually build that fundamental for what everybody seems to be wanting to talk about, which is lending, loans, and investment. I think we have to be realistic. There is still a lot of future and a lot of need for technical cooperation. So instead of doing the speech that we had promised, I'm going to leave you with this. I apologize.
It's perfect. Thank you very much. Amy, do you want to say a last final word, maybe?
Maybe just again to pick up on this final point that I said about forestry and agriculture, because there's a lot of new evidence on the benefits of forest for agriculture itself in terms of the ecosystem services provided. And in this space, we've always focused on the carbon benefits of forests. And from my perspective at FAO, the more that this forest community can talk about the benefits of forests, rainfall, cooling, pollination, all the other ecosystem services for crop productivity and resilience under climate change, the more actually all of the sectors become engaged in this, because it's in their own self-interest to conserve forests as well. And we found this in the FAO experience, and the evidence is there now for quantified evidence for how much crop productivity you enhance. It's something like 30% of soy yields in areas in Brazil that are adjacent to standing forests. I mean, it's a huge, huge argument backed by the best science. So taking us into that frontier and not staying just within our forestry community. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh.
Just while the opportunity was there, just to give a classic example of what it looks like at the subnational level. This is a policy document that was drafted back, with support from the project. It's titled the Bougainville Green-Blue Economic Policy, and it sort of crystallizes at the subnational level what the vision is, balancing economic growth with stewardship of the environment. So I just wanted to highlight the point that sometimes when you don't crystallize the policy vision at the subnational level, it doesn't trickle down. So just a quick shout out to our colleagues in the Bougainville, Autonomous Region of Bougainville, for the work that they're doing in partnership with the national government and partners like Expertise France. So thank you. I think that's enough for me now.
No, it's a brilliant illustration. Thanks a lot. I've heard that, Madame l'Ambassadrice, you want to say a word from Gabon?
Merci. On m'entend? Donc, je le fais en français ou en anglais? En français, et d'accord. Ok. Donc, tout d'abord, je voulais vous dire que c'était un honneur pour moi de prendre la parole à cet important side event sur la coopération technique, le savoir-faire partagé et l'expertise forestière. Quel outil de mise en œuvre pour les pledges financiers, les engagements financiers dans les 3 bassins forestiers tropicaux. Et ceci en ma qualité de co-facilitatrice du partenariat pour les forêts du bassin du Congo que le Gabon anime avec la France depuis juillet 2023. À cet effet, je remercie Expertise France et le ministère des Affaires étrangères de la France pour cette invitation. Donc, le sujet de ce jour est d'une haute importance pour le PFBC, compte tenu des expériences de mobilisation que nous avons connues dans le cadre du Congo Basin Pledge 1 2021-2025 à hauteur de 1,5 milliard de dollars, qui a été lancé en 2021 lors de la COP 26 à Glasgow. Et à la présente COP, il y a eu le lancement le 6 novembre 2025 de l'appel de Belém en faveur des forêts du bassin du Congo, avec pour l'instant plus de 2,5 milliards de dollars d'engagement financiers. Et je saisis cette opportunité pour remercier tous les contributeurs pour cet appel et ainsi que les pays d'Afrique centrale qui ont été au cœur de ce processus. Alors, les leçons apprises du Congo Basin Pledge et des autres mécanismes financiers en matière de climat et de biodiversité nous révèlent qu'au-delà des questions de transparence et d'impact qui sont recherchées à la fois par les donateurs et par les bénéficiaires, il est important de promouvoir le rôle joué par les agences qui disposent d'expérience et de technicité pour accompagner les différents processus politiques. Le succès du dialogue politique ne pourrait donc être amélioré qu'en prenant en compte la question de l'expertise et de la coopération technique. Cette approche devait être considérée à la fois des donateurs, mais aussi des bénéficiaires, car elle garantit un transfert des outils, du savoir-faire, du renforcement des capacités et la mutualisation des connaissances dans la mise en œuvre des financements. En s'inscrivant dans une telle démarche, nous parviendrons à valoriser les savoir-faire des pays forestiers, parce qu'il y en a, et notamment par le biais de plateformes régionales ou des centres d'excellence, en vue d'aboutir à une meilleure implication de l'ingénierie financière des mécanismes financiers. Et je tiens à vous assurer que la cofacilitation du PBC accorde une attention particulière à cette thématique qui enrichira probablement les axes de travail de la prochaine facilitation du PBC qui sera chargée de mettre en œuvre l'appel de Belém. C'est donc ici un appel aux agences de développement, dans vos expertises respectives, d'apporter un soutien à la prochaine facilitation du PBC qui sera probablement une co-facilitation entre un pays du Sud, un pays du bassin du Congo et un pays du Nord, afin de faciliter les dialogues politiques futurs entre les donateurs et les pays bénéficiaires. Je vous remercie de votre attention et je vais devoir vous quitter parce que j'ai un autre side event, je dois faire l'ouverture. Merci beaucoup et j'étais vraiment honorée de prendre part à cette discussion.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Madame l'ambassadrice. I think it's now time to wrap up, and I will try to keep some key words or key elements you've just all mentioned. So first of all, I would like to highlight the importance of the country-led and the participation of Papua New Guinea, Gabon, Congo, show up the importance for all this engagement at the country level for the topic. We all recognize there is a momentum that is pursuing this COP around the forest with a lot of engagement, but it has now to be implemented. And for the implementation, the cooperation, the technical cooperation seems to be an important or critical tools. And I think that the participation today highlighted that. And including based, it has to be funded. I've got your point. I think that, no, it's important. I think that on the, of what I've heard, the cooperation can act in providing a common framework, common understanding, in supporting the country-led and the country in terms of animating policy dialogue that is bringing all together the different expertise. And I think also that the point on being a bit more innovative in finance mobilization is already something that is really important. Congratulations again for the GCF mobilization, but I'm sure a lot has to be done, including nationally for national investment. And the point on sharing knowledge has been also mentioned at several moments. Sharing knowledge across scales and sharing knowledge across regions. This is something that I've also really much appreciated. Thanks a lot for this exchange, and we are now looking forward for the implementation of these initiatives. Thank you.